Today in Houston, Texas, the Verizon IndyCar Series hits the streets in the shadows of NRG Stadium and the famed Astrodome. And the best part about it, it's not once but twice, a demanding doubleheader race weekend where the heat and humidity of the Lone Star State are equally as tough as the competitors each driver faces. And the fans were treated to not only a chaotic opening race yesterday, but an historic IndyCar podium. Never have the top three spots on the podium been filled by three Colombians, and two of them are rookies. Series points leader Will Power can consider himself lucky. After starting yesterday in 18th, he crashed once, but he did salvage a 14th place finish and only lost 6 of what was a 39-point lead. However, his Penske teammate Helio Castroneves, who is the closest to him in the championship, has turned up the heat by winning the pole position for today's 90-lap, 153-mile race number 10 of the 2014 championship. Welcome to IndyCar Live, presented by Verizon. Before we get to talking about the drivers, the cars and the teams, we've got to tell you about just how hot and challenging it is today here in H-Town. 90 degrees, a heat index of 100, and humidity relatively high. Hi folks, Lee Diffie with you here, trackside in Texas for round 10 of the championship. That means we enter the second phase of the 2014 series, and when we look at double headers, just any time, they are considerably tough. But add to that the heat and humidity here in Houston, and the physical demands on the drivers, teams, everybody involved is really elevated. If you weren't with us yesterday, the edge was knocked off that a little bit with some rain and some regular rain showers. So with that and the slippery track, things got spiced up. In fact, it got whipped up into a chaotic, crash-marred race that everybody's still talking about. A lot of people looking at this halfway point of the season as their personal turnaround points. You want to see a race? We've got one at the front. Justin Wilson fending off Carlos Huertas. The young Colombian is looking really racy. Can Justin Wilson hang on? Is it possible that he's got enough fuel to last the end of this race? 3.5 seconds in the lead. There he is.
Tip this lap, tip this lap.
He couldn't last.
It's not a bad risk on a race that's timed. If there had been a caution, you never know, it could have paid. They stay green and he's going to the back.
This is the first time, incidentally, that Carlos Huertas has led a Verizon IndyCar Series race. Carlos Huertas has never in his racing life felt pressure like this. Rahal has hit Kanaan. Oh dear, and yellow waves. And this 23-year-old Colombian, albeit under yellow, will see the checkered flag first.
Nice job.
There it is.
Nice job, Carlos.
A first-time winner in the Verizon IndyCar Series. It's a Colombian 1-2-3. What a story. And we'll continue to talk about that story today. It was valuable for Huertas in the points, but we'll get to him in just a moment. First of all, we have to look at the players at the front. Yes, Power did lose 6 yesterday. He lost another 1 today with Castroneves claiming that Verizon P1 pole award. Hunter Ray snuck 10 points closer yesterday to Power. And other players, Juan Pablo Montoya jumped up into the top 5. Andretti and Dixon lost some spots, and Hinchcliffe and Bourdais elevated themselves into the top 10. Tough day for Kanaan, we know that, so too for Wilson. Huertas, the race winner, leapt from 20th to 13th. It was quite the day, and with more on that, we say hi to Kelly Stavers. Kelly?
Lee, it was quite a sight to see that all-Colombian podium yesterday. 2 rookies and a former champion. Carlos Huertas was the victor. Carlos, what did it mean to you in your first ever IndyCar win to share the podium with 2 of your fellow countrymen, including Juan Pablo Montoya, a childhood hero of yours?
It was great. I think yesterday it was a really difficult race in the beginning, and as the race went on, it kind of got better and better all the time. And at the end, it was nice to win, and especially on my rookie year, it's always special. It's really hard to do it as well, so really nice that, and also nice for our country to have the 3 of us on the podium.
Well, and Carlos Munoz, you benefited from that late race crash and penalty on Graham Rahal, but your day started by serving a penalty of your own, a drive-through. Did you think that you could rebound from that and get in position for a podium?
Yeah, I think in IndyCar here, you have always to have your mind positive because everything can happen, can change so quickly. You know, we saw yesterday I had to a drive-through penalty, and then I had to come in to change my front wing. You know, it seems like the strategy is a lot here in Detroit. I was complaining that we lose all the positions in the pit stop. It's not possible. We're doing something wrong strategy-wise, but, you know, yesterday was in our favor, and, you know, it was a great day for all Colombian people, not only for race car drivers, but also for football fans
But these guys were busy celebrating in victory lane. There was not much to cheer for with Will Power. He's standing by with Kevin Lee.
No, there was not, Kelly. But as Lee mentioned, there is still some good with the bad and hopefully no ugly, that he still does have a sizable lead in the championship. But it all started with the first practice. Gets very airborne after one of the curbs coming through the one section. And then qualifying yesterday. Obviously frustrated. 18th starting race number 1. Couldn't really move forward. Had some issues. Finished 14th. And no better today either. And he will start 18th for the second straight race. So, Will, how do you salvage something out of this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar situation to yesterday, obviously, without the rain, although there was some spits coming down there. But, man, you know, we got to, you know, take it as it comes. We've got to see what happens with the leaders and when the yellows fall. And if we... I hear that. I better win. But, you know, and then see what we can do strategy-wise, because it's difficult to pass. That's definitely was the case yesterday, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Now, yesterday, as you mentioned, it was wet early, and then you had the off that kept you from going at it. But what issues are you dealing with right now, especially in qualifying this morning?
This morning was actually getting held up. You had to back off and then move offline, and I got some stuff on my tires, and you only got three. We only got 3 laps. You know, it's so competitive, you couldn't get it done.
All right, we'll watch. I think he's still going to be entertaining. Coming from 18th today, Lee.
We'll continue to watch the championship leader. Now, if the mechanics and engineers don't work hard enough and didn't work hard enough yesterday, their day was elongated. Reason why, 11 of the 23 cars sustained some form of damage, and that means many of the teams had to work late into the night. There was no team curfew placed upon the team personnel. It was important to get the damage fixed because at 10 a.m. this morning, they had qualifying for today's second race, and it wasn't without incident. Look at this. That's how full Will Power's hands were, wrestling the number 12. And as Kevin mentioned, he will start 18th. And the body language with his engineer, Dave Faustino, says it all, doesn't it? Big challenge ahead for the man at the top. Now, his Penske teammate, Juan Pablo Montoya, was impeded by Joseph Newgarden during that phase of qualifying, and race control agreed with Montoya, penalised Newgarden and stripped him of his 2 quickest laps. The Russian rookie, Mikhail Aloshin, he was quickest in the first of 2 groups in qualifying, and he will start on the front row alongside this man who was the quickest out of both groups, Helio Castroneves for Team Penske. And cue the Helio performance. We know how excitable he is, but this one meant something. He was pumped. He got that bonus point for the Verizon P1 award, and starts in the best possible position to mount the attack on his teammate. So we know that Castroneves is on the front row alongside Aloshin. We've never seen that combination up there. Graham Rahal, who was a real performer yesterday, starts on the second row alongside Simon Pagenaud. Wilson and Bourdais, they can't seem to get away from each other. After Texas Motor Speedway 3 weeks ago, they start alongside each other here as well. And Scott Dixon felt he got impeded in qualifying from Simon Pagenaud, so he's not happy either. And as we roll through the rest of the grid, there you see Power all the way back. But for Castroneves, it's career pole position number 40. That equals him with his friend and mentor Rick Mears for 4th on the all-time list for pole positions in IndyCar Series history. The only names ahead of Helio Castroneves and Rick Mears are Andretti, Unser and Foyt. And Jan Beekes, that means Helio's in some pretty rarefied air.
He definitely is, Lee, and it was by the slimmest of margins for the pole position for Helio, less than 0.02 of a second. How worried were you, because your 2 teammates had already been out and they didn't do well?
Yeah, no, obviously, in all fairness, the track is all clean on the first group, and I wasn't thinking about that. But after I finished, because I did a few laps only, and I said, listen, the car start pushing, nothing I can do anymore, and Roger's like not saying a word. I'm like, how do we do? So finally, when they say P1, and that was awesome. So great way to start here in the Shell Pennzoil car, and hopefully we finish the same place.
We saw that celebration. We know you're animated, but that was extra animated. Was that a bit of gamesmanship, kind of rubbing it in, head games with your teammates?
No, not about that, but it's a great way from last year. You know, last year we had a redemption, let's put it this way. Last year we had the issues, and now we're back again in the game, and hopefully it'll be a turnaround. Like for us, unfortunately, was for losing the championship. Hopefully here will be the turnaround for the championship. And now we have 90 laps. Hopefully, whatever happens with the weather, I don't care, as long as we keep in the front.
Possible redemption from the pole position. Lee?
And needless to say, Helio Castroneves is pumped. His countryman and good friend Tony Kanaan was in a thrilling fight for a podium yesterday, along with the National Guard entry of Graham Rahal. It didn't end the way either of them wanted. We're going to talk about that when we come back. You're watching IndyCar Live, brought to you by Verizon and IndyCar. Driving Technology 2014 Verizon IndyCar Series. Now there is a great place to watch the Shell and Pennzoil Grand Prix of Houston from the club level at NRG Stadium as we welcome you back to IndyCar Live, presented by Verizon. The track is literally just below where they are. That is a super vantage point. Well, third-generation racer Graham Rahal in many ways is still very much waiting for his 2014 season to ignite. And yesterday, it almost did. It was an eventful day that didn't deliver, but there were some positives to take away from it, despite a controversial ending. We're hearing that Graham Rahal in the National Guard entry has stalled on the line after stalling on the grid. Here he is, right at the very end, vying for a spot on the podium in the National Guard entry. Tony Rahal on the inside! What a slingshot! Graham Rahal set up Carlos Munoz and just blew on by. That was sensational. So Rahal from last, from stalled on the grid, got 2 more to use. To fourth. Rahal! Wow! Rahal has hit Kanaan. Oh dear, and yellow waves. And Tony Kanaan will be in disbelief.
Oh well, that was a bit of a messy end.
And the recipient of that contact, Tony Kanaan, joins us now. You have remarkable restraint, my friend. I don't think I've ever seen you that mad before, and you held it all in. You were professional. How did you do that?
I don't know. I have to actually apologize to my wife that had to put up with me the rest of the night in the bus. So I love you, baby. I had to do what I had to do. Like I told you in the interview, I had to be professional. And, you know, sometimes I have a kid at home. I have a bunch of fans there, very little. I don't want to set a bad example. And it's just, at the end of the day, it's just a race, and we'll move on. So now it's a new day.
And the good thing is you had a great car at the end of that race. Did it transfer over to today?
Yeah, I mean, we qualified really well today. I think, you know, we're in the top 8. We're being in the first session with a green track. We're 4th. So it's going to be a tough day out there, Kevin, and we talked about it. It's going to be really hot. It's going to be a survival. We have a lot of tire strategies, a lot of fuel strategies. So it's going to be, to me, in my opinion, it's going to be a survival race.
Well, we will miss the show from Tony coming from the back, but much better from him. He starts beyond mid-pack in 8th today, Jan.
And we talked earlier to Helio about how he missed the pole position less than 2/100ths of a second. Of course, that was against Simon Pagenaud. The pole. I'm going to move a bit so I'm getting a bit of breakup. Let's see if we get our signal back here. Yesterday from the pole, you looked great, but then you had obviously braking issues. Is that resolved?
I hope so. I was fine in qualifying. It's fine in when you run really hard in dry condition because you can generate a lot of pressure on the brakes, and it generates that temperature. And yesterday in the rain, the left front rotor never woke up until it dried, and the car came back to life. Unfortunately, we got collected with Dixon, but I think we got a really fast car. We showed it again today. Helio beat me today, but I beat him yesterday. So it's going to be a great fight, and looking forward to it. I think there's going to be a lot of surprise by the end because it's really hot, and physical condition is going to matter.
Definitely looking for a hot race, and as you said, some action up front. Kelly?
With Graham Rahal. And Graham, a little while ago, we showed the highs and lows of your day yesterday. That late race contact, though, is what has everyone talking. We heard from Tony. How have you reflected on that moment, which cost each of you a shot at the podium?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, I made a mistake, and there's nothing you can do about that now. I mean, we had a fast race car. We had the fastest race car at the end of that day. And we showed this morning, I think we've got the pace to be up front again today. But, you know, I feel bad about it. Like I said, I mean, what's the logic in hitting someone on purpose to finish 11th for us? It does no good. We needed the points. We wanted to be on the podium. And as I said yesterday, I thought I could have passed him anyway if it had gone green. So it wasn't a bonus to me, that's for sure. But, you know, I'm ready to get this National Guard car up front. We're going to start 4th today, and, you know, we feel good about where we're at.
Day of redemption for you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just another one of those days, but today feels really good. The guys done a great job this weekend, and, you know, I'm proud of them, proud of all the effort everybody's putting in. And like I said, you know, I got to make the National Guard proud, and I think we can do that.
Alrighty, starting from the second row, Lee.
Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, he was trying for a podium yesterday. That's where Simona de Silvestro finished when we were here at this venue last October. And speaking of Simona, she doesn't compete in the Verizon IndyCar Series anymore. She is testing Formula One for Sauber and just finished a 3-day test where she completed more than 300 laps in Valencia, Spain. Things are going well.
It's just different type of racing. You know, also as a driving style, I feel the IndyCar, you can really hustle it around quite a bit, and that's the fast way, where the Formula One car, it's more tidy. You know, really got to make the car kind of do the work.
And we wish Simona well. Can't wait to see her perhaps in a Friday practice session like Susie Wolff will be doing when we see you for the British Formula One Grand Prix next weekend. And a reminder that race day, it's on CNBC. That's the Santander British Formula One Grand Prix. Hope you can join us for that. Well, when you come to Houston, Texas, you can't help but talk about the legend AJ Foyt. And there's his driver, Takuma Sato, who was a real story yesterday. When we come back on IndyCar Live, we'll talk to both those. We talk about racing around here at this modern circuit, but racing in these parts goes back a long way. Yes, the Astrodome and midget racing back in 1969 is where this footage came from. There's Supertech's AJ Foyt. Raced 4 times there, including a win, but in 69 it did not go his way. Isn't this spectacular old footage? It is just fantastic. And on this occasion in 1969, it was the late Gary Bettenhausen's day. And I know that AJ certainly enjoyed racing there. And there is the Astrodome Circuit 2014. Still very much part of this circuit as we race in between and around these two amazing sporting facilities. You know, there is only one driver in the history of motorsports to have won the Indy 500, the Daytona 500, and the 24 Hours of Le Mans and Daytona. That is the legend, AJ Foyt, or as I mentioned, his nickname, Super Tex. And being here in Houston, there's no better place to talk to him than his hometown, and no better person to interview him than his good friend, we think, Robin Miller.
Okay, Mr. Foyt, against all odds, this January you turn 80 years old, my friend. Now, there's been a lot of things I've seen in my life where I couldn't quite believe, but I said, you making it to 80 years old is one hell of an accomplishment.
Well, a lot of people said I'd never live to be 22 years old. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Well, you weren't reckless. It was just a dangerous time.
Well, I think it was. You know, that's one thing I see in racing today, Robin. Take the stock cars, Indy cars, everything. It's about 200% safer in the cars than when I drove.
Think about this. Dan Gurney's 83. You guys won Le Mans together. Uncle Bobby Unser's just turned 80. Parnelli's 80. Rutherford's 77. You guys all came through the toughest, most grueling, dangerous period of racing, but it was also the most glamorous. You guys were kind of the gladiators of the day that people gravitated towards.
We all come up fighting from the little ranks to the big ranks, and you just don't see that, and I think that's what people is really missing in racing today.
A few years ago at Elkhart Lake, there was about 100 people lined up to get your autograph, and they had all the current drivers, and they had about 15 guys around them. And afterwards, I said, hey, that's pretty good. They haven't forgot the old man. And you said, I don't know why they still care so much. Parnelli says that all the time, and that's what we don't have anymore.
And they knew one thing, that we went out and raced. We didn't only race for money. We raced for the glamour and the win. I think that's one thing that the people believed in. They knew I give 110% everywhere I went in a car, and I never give up, and that's just been my life.
You raced right over here at the old Astrodome.
Well, that's really where I started, at Playland Park, quarter-mile dirt. I started in a stock car and midgets and all that, and I didn't know how much fun I was having when I was really nobody and just starting out, because it was a lot of fun.
I got a lot of pictures of you, but to me, this is one of the great ones, because there's a guy that was really tired because you just won Langhorne. I think it was a 100-lapper, and it was like 94 degrees outside.
I'll agree with you, and you can see I was pretty tired, even though I was in good shape back then.
This is you getting ready to practice at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in a golf shirt.
That's quite true, you know. You didn't have all these fancy uniforms and fireproof stuff, and people don't realize in them roadsters you carried 75 gallons of fuel, not no 20.
On race day, there's a picture of you after you qualified with the Dean Van Line's T-shirt on.
Yeah, when I first qualified in 1958 for Clint Bronner, the late Clint Bronner, I had a Dean Van Lines
There's a Dean Van
T-shirt.
Lines.
Well, that was when I had enough money to get a uniform.
So then you didn't have to wear a uniform the first year you made Indy? That was just by choice. You had
a cotton T-shirt, yeah. Was I ever that young and had that much hair?
Well, you also have the greatest voice answering machine of all time. It says, "This is AJ. Leave your name. I might call you back."
That's exactly right.
Well, there's one person he takes a call from, and that's his driver, Takuma Sato. He's got a lot of respect and admiration for this talented 37-year-old Japanese driver, and AJ was furious yesterday with how Takuma's race ended. If you didn't see it, this is the story. Whoa! Big move from Takuma Sato. Straight into the race lead goes Sato. No attack, no chance is his motto.
Look after your tires.
That's code for calm it down. Race for the lead is on here. Hinchcliffe attacking Takuma Sato.
On son, you've got to push now. You've got to push on these tires.
Yes.
Got him.
And that's because Hinchcliffe had a lightning stop on pit road.
That is a lapped car. Mikhail Aloshin takes Takuma Sato out of this race. One of the most spectacular drives to the front, and now it's done.
What gets you a car lapped down, you'd think you'd back off, but I don't know. You got a bunch of idiots, is all I can say.
Takuma is right now making his way through driver intros. Obviously, Larry, your dad unhappy with the situation yesterday. For his part, Mikhail Aloshin says he just didn't have anywhere to go. How did you see that incident through your eyes?
Yeah, that was a tough deal. I mean, both guys kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time there. So that's racing. I think it was just a racing incident, something that happened. But today's a new day. Got starting 10th, so not quite up as close as we were yesterday. But we know we got a good car and good driver.
Sounded like there was a little bit of bruising on Takuma's right wrist. What's the update with his condition?
He didn't complain much after qualifying this morning, so definitely we were concerned about it because he had an injury last year and it was really lingering. But he said he feels good, so I have no doubt we'll get this ABC car up front today.
Yesterday I talked to you about some of those aggressive moves he made early in the race. Do you expect to see more out of him today?
I don't know. I'm trying to keep the dark hair. It's all going gray so fast when he makes those moves, but that's what we like about him. You know, he is aggressive, but you got to be in these races. These races are so tight and close that when a guy can pull them off, it's really exciting.
Right, the ABC Supply Company starting 10th today, Lee.
Yeah, Larry is very much the calming influence. He motivates Takuma, but then he's got to kind of keep the lid on it a bit. He's very much a good coach. Quick reminder to download the IndyCar 14 app. Visit verizon.com/IndyCar or the App Store or Google Play. Verizon and IndyCar, driving technology. When we come back on the other side of this break to IndyCar Live, Paul Tracy, Steve Matchett, their views on yesterday and today for this doubleheader weekend. You've been watching IndyCar Live, brought to you by Verizon and IndyCar. Driving Technology 2014 Verizon IndyCar Series. We are counting down to the start of round 10, race 10 in the 2014 Verizon IndyCar Series. Yesterday, the opening race in this doubleheader weekend was an eventful one for that young driver there, Marco Andretti, and he and his Andretti Autosport team have been penalised. Yes, they've been fined $2,500, and Marco is on probation for 3 races. And this is the reason why. For those of you who watched, you will know he was out. He was the last car on the lead lap, and he was fighting hard to stay on that lead lap. However, race control has said he did not heed the blue flags. The blue flags mean you must let the car, there's a faster car behind, you must yield to that. Marco did not do that. I don't think he agrees with the decision, but Jan Vikas, it's been handed down, and the team and he has to deal with it.
Yes, Lee, and it won't surprise you, this was a topic of conversation this morning in the drivers' meeting. And first of all, the officials wanted everyone to know that the penalty and the probation had nothing to do with Marco impeding Sato for the lead. It all had to do with, as you mentioned, not heeding a direct response from race control. And in my opinion, they actually got off fairly light. But there is a debate that is raging between many of the drivers, and it depends on their background. If you're an IndyCar driver with an oval track background, a lot of times they're saying, we feel you should be able to fight as you do on an oval, fight to the death to stay on the lead lap. But those that come from a road racing background, especially in Europe, of course, there you don't do it at all. So there's kind of a clash of cultures here. IndyCar has taken note, but for today, same rule. You may race to try and stay on the lead lap, but if you lose a gap, and you impede the leader, they'll ask you to pull over.
Yeah, and I think I know a driver who may not have heeded a directive from race control, and he might be standing very close to me, Mr. Paul Tracy, once or twice. Steve Matchett joins us as well from NBCSN Formula One. But, mate, I know that there's been a lot of times in your career where you've been that last car on the lead lap racing to try and stay on that lead lap to give you a chance later on. What's your take on this?
I don't ever remember that. I know for sure I've never gotten a black flag for getting lapped, but... you know, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, ultimately, if you're going to try to hang on to the lead lap, you've got to pull away from the guy who's the leader. You can't hold up the leader a second and a half a lap, back him up to your teammate. So, you know, I think they made the right call yesterday.
Steve, yesterday's race was pretty chaotic. How did you enjoy it?
It was a fabulous race, and there was so much going on. Today, there's going to be a lot going on too. Of course, a lot of guys that are racing have an awful lot to prove. To get over these sorts of events that we saw yesterday. A lot of collisions, a lot of accidents. There was a lot of damage overnight. I would say, overall, the big winner has got to be Dallara's composite department. Man, those guys must have been working flat out to get all those new wings made.
And, Paul, you've got to reset, you've got to rebound for this one today. You think the guys are ready?
Well, I think they are, and I think Castroneves is really ready today. He fired a shot over the bow of Will Power. He's got to capitalize on getting the pole today. If I was him, I'd just try to drive away and not worry about fuel mileage and just go for it.
And one thing that you'll hear us talk about a lot today, if you haven't been with us on the show, extreme heat here in Houston. Time now, though, for the opening ceremonies before the second race of the weekend.
Gary Zaritis, chaplain IndyCar Ministries and Redemptionist priest at St. Gerard Church in San Antonio, offers this afternoon's invocation.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, our Father, give these drivers, 21st century charioteers, the wisdom to know when to be daring and thrill us, and the guidance to know when to surge to victory to amaze us. Keep these awesome 21st century chariot machines, designed by creative engineers with their DW12 chassis, Honda Racing HI14 TT, and Chevrolet V6 turbocharged engines, propelled by E85 fuel, supported on Sweb's management systems and Firestone red tires, and maintained by salt-of-the-earth mechanics and pit crews. Keep them swift and safe. Most of all, Father, may the team spirit and skill exhibited on this MD Anderson Cancer Center Speedway by these talented teams inspire and encourage medical science to bring home to the winner's circle a cure for all forms of cancer. Can I hear an amen? And go Team USA.
And now, fans, please welcome Associate Professor in Pediatrics at the University of Texas MD Anderson Children's Cancer Hospital, Dr. Dennis Hughes, as he performs our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of
Let's hear it for him, race fans. Dr. Dennis Hughes for his performance of our national anthem.
May I have your attention on the grid? Just about set to go for race 2 this weekend. It has been a physically taxing weekend. It's been taxing on the teams and cars as well. Let's check in with Robin Miller.
You know what, Lee? When I first met this guy in 1984, he had a stock block Chevy, and he was running in the Long Beach Grand Prix. He was the colossal underdog, and the fans cheered every lap he made. Well, this is his 30th year as a car owner. Only Roger Penske and AJ Foyt have been doing this longer, and he's no longer the little guy that everybody feels sorry for. He's become a bully. 3 years, 3 different victories, 3 different drivers. Hell of a job yesterday by your rookie.
He did a great job. You know, we used a strategy to put him up front, but then he had to do it from there. He pulled away from when Pablo Montoya was childhood hero, so it's kind of neat to be able to do something like that.
You said yesterday in an interview, these guys don't know how to call a timed race. Tell us your little secret without giving it away.
Well, I just think you have to think differently. You quadruple gain from the end. If you can get a yellow at the end, you gain time, you gain laps, you gain so much. So, in the old days, they didn't close the pits on yellow. And the strategy was really important. You had to have your head in the game every second of the day. So I think, just all that experience of race calling all those years, it helps.
All right, Lee. Dale Coyne looking to repeat again today. Be a double winner this weekend here in Houston.
Robin, thank you. That old adage, you can't buy experience, and Dale Coyne epitomizes that. Thanks for watching IndyCar Live, presented by Verizon. When we come back, no standing start today. It's a rolling start, so that means the green flag will fly. Back in a moment.